Welcome to week 5, everybody. I'm Mike Shope with Adam Krautwurst. Here we go. The deep end wouldn't heat up. It'd get deeper, saltier. Oh, got to tell you about this steak that I just made. It's the deep end. We're going to talk strategy for week 5, players, and a couple of themes as we get into what used to be the second quarter of the season. I guess it's technically not, but close enough. Welcome to our show. This is the deep end. So while everybody's sitting down, I have become interested in cooking. I'm not saying I'm good at it yet. Steak report.
The steak report.
I don't mind if this becomes a weekly feature. But I got home at, 7:15 or so, typical Tuesday.
Yep.
And I just watched one of my favorite TV chefs, Adam. I think you're a fan as well, Jonathan Waxman.
Love J-Wax. One of my favorites.
This hanger steak, and I was excited about it. Salsa picante with Fresno chilies, and this was my night to do it because no one else is there. It is.
Is that it? Are those
that was it.
Chilies or whatever you just said?
Fresno chilies.
Fresno chilies.
I used a white onion because I didn't have yellow. And lots of salt and pepper. And I think, this is the steak report.
Delicious.
I would say I probably oversalted it, and that. I guess I might have had you on my mind because whenever you and I go out, I complain that everything is under seasoned.
Yeah.
So not to the restaurant, just to you, because I don't want to be the guy who complains.
You don't want
to
talk about it. Right.
In Canton, the waitress, she read my mind. She's like, "What's the problem?" I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it." So the steak report, though, it was hot. And one other time on this with the Fresno chilies, he keeps the seeds in. So he's like, "Oh, it's going to be hot," but I just wanted to try it. My kids are out. So it was hot and very spicy. And I just wanted to make sure I did not have to use the bathroom during the show. That happened one other time.
Yes.
And so I went for the water. I'm thinking like I could drink 3 glasses of water right now. But they say bread is better when your mouth is on fire. Eat bread, not water. So 2 birds, Adam. Ate the bread.
Yep.
I shouldn't need the bathroom tonight because I didn't drink 3 glasses of water. I've got my wine here anyway. So, be pretty salty. The peppers were not the problem. Great recipe. One of my favorites in Chef Waxman. It was an honor to cook one of his recipes and discuss it here with you tonight, the steak report.
Was it as good as you thought it would be?
No. No, it was not as good as it would be if he made it.
That's sure.
But considering the circumstances, hustling to be done and here with you by 8:00 Eastern, I am definitely not unhappy with it. So it was fun to do. Cooking is a very happy place for me.
Perfect.
As is high stakes fantasy football. Here we go. Week 5. I feel like you're doing really well this year.
I think I am. I think the national contests have been good to me so far. Kind of the experts contests have been pretty good to me so far. I think I'm 3rd in the DS Invitational. What are we in pros versus Joes? Second
in our division after a slow week. Cooper Kupp down, Mike Williams down, McCaffrey out.
Yep.
And we didn't have the Madison week that we lucked into the week before. We can't get Ramondre Stevenson into the lineup either.
Yeah,
I know. The strategy was to be pretty thin at running back. Even Aaron Jones last week split time. So it was hopefully it would be our worst week of the year. Calvin Ridley is somebody at 301 that was it seemed like a steal, but that hasn't really worked out yet. So We're second in our division behind Evan Silva. No shame in losing to him, but I love our team. And if the Rams have a good week, any week the Rams really – we have Stafford, Kupp, Higbee, and Jefferson. Jefferson is – he has some value. He's on the field a lot. He had that early touchdown against Arizona. And so I'm not even sure what happened, but he might have been in our best ball lineup last week. So that's going all right. Draftsharks Invitational, I'm doing terribly, but you are 3rd, but not 1st in your group?
No. Let me show this. Let me pop this up here. Why isn't it coming up? Let me see. Oh, here we go. Add to stream. Yeah. So here's the DS Invitational. So this is the Draftsharks Invitational is a competition with 6 leagues full of the best high stakes or cash game players and the best kind of analysts that we could find out there with a single entry, right? Because we always like to talk about the guys who win all the money, but how many entries do they have in these tournaments? Where let's give everyone one entry into this thing and see how everybody does. So last year, Pete Overzet won it. I took Saquon Barkley in the first round last year, so I was dead. But this year, doing pretty well so far. So I'm third overall. Abib, the football guy's GOAT is first. All the teams that are in yellow are winning their respective leagues, their respective divisions. Mm-hmm. And if naturally, I'm always that guy, Mike. I'm that guy that's just put some yellow on my name. I remember 2 years ago, the last time I was in the Pros versus Joes, I was same situation. I was second or third overall, but second in my league. So I want some yellow. So. But I'm happy with third as of right now, and we got a couple cool things. We got a couple Draft Sharks guys up there. We got myself, we got Matt Schauf, we got Lenny Papano. We're all playing for Lenny's money here. So we got Lenny Papano there in the top 10. So that's great. Do you want me to find you on this list?
No, I'm 68th. You don't have to look for me. I'll just tell you, I'm 68th. I don't even know why. Let's not go over my roster because I don't think. I mean, I'm an odds player. Yeah. And that team went Prescott, Kamara, Metcalf, Fields, Zach Wilson, and then more ETN. I know I drafted ETN that night.
Yeah.
I waited on tight end. I'm probably getting smoked there. But, you have to give up something. And sure. I didn't hate that draft or anything like that. A very tough room with Abib, Dwayne, and some other big names, but
yeah.
It's okay.
But yeah, we'll throw mine up here real quick. So for whatever reason, it's been kind of a running joke. This website has given me the name Crack Rock for some reason. So I picked 9th under the Crack Rock. Crack Rock is in this competition, but he was in a different draft. So I wanted in these super flex leagues, I love going quarterback early because I don't get to do it in other leagues. So Kyler Murray, Matt Stafford. I mean, that's a pretty sweet little quarterback start there. Zeke, I like Zeke going into the year. I took him as RB4 here, probably a little bit early based on how he's going to end up the year. But this was, early August. Najee Harris, RB14, love that. And then I went with my guys, Cooper Kupp and Mike Evans. Those were 2 guys that, I love Cooper Kupp, and Mike Evans is going to the Hall of Fame, so I'll take him.
Sure, right? Yeah.
Busted on Ayuk. But hit big on Deebo Samuel, so.
Well, Adam, look, if you're in third overall and you don't have Ayuk yet, I don't know, let's just take a second here. What is he? Like in a tournament like this, I think I would like the fact that he hasn't contributed yet and you're still in that good position, but in a home league or a high stakes league, even, when do you get to the point where you just can't anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great point. Honestly, Mike, it might be this week. You might be seeing a lot of Ayuk available on the waivers in the next week. A lot of these podcasts are talking about it's okay. It's okay to cut him now. So
do you think that?
I probably won't because I can't stomach especially if a team like this where it's loaded and I'm doing well and I can afford to wait it out. He's a guy that I would probably hold on to because, again, if there's an injury to Deebo Samuel, that changes Ayuk's situation. Injury to Kittle, guys I trust like Matt Harmon, reception perception. He loves him. He thinks he's talented. So I'm going to bet on talent. I'm going to hold on to him if I can afford to do that.
For me, I think you always want to try to remember it's not always useful or even it can be deceiving, but they've lost their last 2 games. And so I know 2 games ago, he played a lot and he scored a touchdown and that seemed to relax everybody about him.
Yeah.
And so he went right back into lineups last week. And then last week, I don't know, it's really hard to know all the answers. And San Francisco is a particular puzzle, but do they rely on him? Do they trust him? that's really for running backs, maybe more than receivers. And then the fact that they're losing these games when it's a player that I have, I feel kind of good after that because maybe they'll feel some pressure
Right.
to put him back out there if they lose. I don't know, though. In San Francisco's case, I'm not sure there's ever any pressure. They get all the credit. They have beautiful homes. They have all the money. I don't know. It's a seemingly linked coach and GM. There's not pressure there like there is in Chicago, for instance, where the hole is pretty deep, and a lot of other places and situations. I don't know. In terms of Ayuk, where does that leave you? I'm definitely not cutting him.
Right.
But I've been starting him week 3. I was on board. I benefited there. It seemed like most of the industry was off him. Again, last week I thought we were safe. And I don't know. This week is different. At Arizona with Lance, the quarterback changes it too.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to hold on to him, especially in these big tournaments. Again, I'm going to bet on that talent. And I kind of stacked the receivers here, and Debo ended up being the guy, which is great. So I lost Mostert, which stinks. I went with the Jonnu Henry stack there. Fournette's been a guy,
yes,
not sexy, but I've got him everywhere. RB43. He's one of those guys where I took him in a lot of like 0 RB or hero RB builds. And so he's been a guy that's just going to get me 13, 14 points a game. The coaching is Ronald Jones better than him? Maybe, probably. But the coaching staff loves Fournette. Brady likes Fournette. He likes his, that he blocks. He's a solid enough runner. And he's great for these 0 RB builds, man. You get 15 points out of your RB2 or 13 points or whatever. Rojo stole a touchdown from him. That stinks on Monday night, but he's been fine.
Yeah, he catches the ball better than Jones. I don't know if Jones is better. I used to think so, but I don't think it matters anymore.
Right.
When Bernard got hurt, there was one that most people got right, thinking that Fournette would be close to an every down back against New England, and he was. And the way you described it, so in the bare knuckle challenge, that was a very good week for us in that.
Yeah.
I drafted Fournette in maybe round 10. And I remember just being like, oh no, like here there was the only time the whole night like this where I was sort of embarrassed. And I remember I said, running back Leonard Fournette. But nobody laughed. Nobody cared. Like they didn't know who I was. But that was a 230 point week for us in that. We went up 4 spots.
Huge.
Darnold, Najee Barkley off the top, Debo, McLaurin, Woods mattered, Jared Cook.
Yeah.
Jared Cook.
What a crazy week for Jared Cook. I mean Mike Williams, for all us Mike Williams lovers out there. I mean, we finally get a chance to lock into a primetime game with Mike Williams against a beatable defense. The future Hall of Famer at quarterback misses Mike Williams for a 60-yard score. And it's just one of those games where you just knew, like you had that feeling about him all. Like after the first quarter, like, oh man, it's gonna be one of these primetime games where he lets us down. Now Eckler was a stud for those of us that have him, and so that kind of eased the blow a little bit. But man, it would have been nice to see Big Mike on primetime light it up for us.
Eckler is beautiful to watch. Just the way he stops and starts. He's just so impressive.
He's so good, but he hobbles off last night too.
Yeah.
It's just the running back.
That was a typical scare.
We're
talking about guys. One thing before we get into players, I'd like to think that it's what this show, you and me, was sort of meant to be, was for the high stakes player to tune in and, get a feel for what you're thinking and what we might think other people will be thinking this week. And so I'm new to this and you're not. And I try to come with questions, and thoughts like in my first go around here in certainly the main event, and for the most part, FBG. And so we're going into week 5 here, and I don't know when or if ever you really start to impart playoff schedules and strategy into your waivers and, I don't know, not your lineups, but into sort of your roster. Like, do you have to be a certain kind of good? I feel like maybe not, because either way, you're going to have, if you get there, you want to have some sort of, preparation in place for those weeks 13 on. Maybe 13 and 14 is one thing and 15 to 17 is another. And there's also with FFPC, Adam, that cutoff where you can't pick up anybody that's been dropped after a certain point. So we don't have to I don't want to get into all that tonight.
Yeah.
And you might shoot the whole thing down right away because I didn't discuss this with you before. I just told you I wanted to ask this question. Here it is, going into week 5. To what extent, if at all, are you thinking about what your roster will look like if you make it?
Yeah. I think we're coming up on it, right? So bye weeks hit week 6. Cool thing about the FFPC this year is we got that week 6 all play, which I think I want to talk a little bit about next week before we get in, before the week 6 all play hits, because that's going to be a super interesting week and a first time thing in the FFPC. But yeah, it's fun to me to kind of sit back and look at, and I'll even pull it up here to sit back and look at. So here I have the Draftsharks.com strength of schedule tool here. It's in their Intel section here. And this is the running back portion. So it's cool to kind of go and look and say, okay, I have a really good team, and who do my guys project to play, right? So I have a 0 RB team in a 3K that I did, and my number one running back is Darrell Henderson. I'm like, all right, well, let me go look. Darrell Henderson in the big money weeks 15, 16, 13, 15, 16 gets Jacksonville, Seattle, Minnesota, right? Beautiful green matchups there. It's like, so that's really cool to kind of go look and feel confident about, all right, I'm going to have an RB1 there. Or, hey, if Sony Michel is available on waivers, do I go pick up a guy like Sony Michel? He might get dropped. He did zero work this week behind Darrell Henderson. If he gets dropped, I know in my mind, okay, they have a really good playoff schedule. If Henderson gets hurt and I pick up Sony Michel now, he could be a borderline RB1 or RB2 for those playoff weeks. It won't be a wasted pickup. So yeah, it's never too early to go and look at these matchups, these strength of schedule, especially for the running back position, because we've talked about this before, I'm always grinding waivers for running backs. I want the backup. I want the backups to the backup, because even if he can just give me 1 week where he can pop in and get me 15 points, that's a difference between winning and losing. It's the difference between first and second. So I'm looking at the schedule. Ram just kind of popped out to me because I had the Darrell Henderson situation there. And then, conversely, you get a team like Tampa. We were just talking about little Leonard Fournette. Well, look at him. He's got Buffalo, New Orleans, Carolina, 3 straight weeks, 14, 15, 16. Doesn't look great, right? So
that can fluctuate. That will fluctuate some.
Sure.
As the season plays out, but 4 weeks in is a pretty good sample.
Correct. In fact, Draftsharks doesn't even do this until week 3 is complete. So they throw all that information in there. And yes, every week it is going to change. But the further we get in the season, the more solid it is. So it'll become even tighter and even more credible as the season goes on. But I was just giving it kind of example of what I like to do. So no, I don't think it's ever too early to start looking at the playoffs. The big thing I'll do maybe around week 8 or 9 is I'll start looking at the defensive matchups, right? Storing, because I carry 2 defenses throughout the FFPC playoffs because, I usually carry 2. I definitely carry two kickers because I don't want an injury to ruin my shot at $500,000. Although Abib, I think, won the football guys 1 year without a kicker. But yeah,
that's what a real man would do.
That's right. That's instincts. You know what I mean?
Hat tip to Chris Liss. Yes, instincts. I don't want to win it with 2 kickers.
No, I don't want to win with any kickers.
Yeah, wasn't there a story about that, by the way? Didn't somebody have a 0 at kicker? Was it him?
Yeah, it was Abib.
He had a 0.
Yeah, Abib 2 years ago when he went up the first time, his kicker got hurt like the first round of the playoffs, week 15 or 14, and he went on to win the whole thing.
Yeah. Let's insert that Vince McMahon GIF walking into the arena.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So you're thinking about it, and then you get to a point where you think, I'm going to add that extra kicker and defense, and you're sacrificing wide receiver 8.
Sure.
Something at that point. Same thing with quarterbacks. You got to have at least 2 quarterbacks when you get there, right?
Yep. Yep.
Well, let's talk about quarterbacks for a second here before we get to free agent targets. Unless Trey Lance is somebody in the league you're in as you're watching that is somebody you could pick up. I mean, if that's the case, I think you would agree, of course, do it.
Yes.
Like Lance and Fields have always been not only ours, but I think almost anybody in the high stakes world that you check in with, they're always saying about the upside potential for either of those guys. It hasn't been the easiest start for either, and both of their coaches continue to sort of talk about them like they're little kids. Shanahan condescends to Lance and Nagy to Fields, and you wonder if they just are doing that over here with the media, but in private they're talking to them in a certain different way. Yeah. I don't know, but in terms of the main event and FBG, Adam, especially as it got later, Lance and Fields, I mean, they were, for me, I'll speak for myself. They were like a real strategy point in those drafts. And what I did at quarterback a lot of times might have even revolved around them. Not literally, but like, do you want Dak Prescott here or Brady here? What will that mean to this whole Lance/Fields idea that's looming in the next few rounds? And I think I ended up a little bit crossed up when it came to these guys. And let's just say for this point that they're both the same, that you like them both the same.
Yeah.
So I have a team with Brady and Lance. And I'm thinking, at the time I think, Brady's in his 40s, right? As am I, by the way, if you're wondering, I'm in my 40s. And so I'll have Lance's insurance, but in a perfect season, in a good season, I'll never use him, right? Or I'll end up benching Brady, and neither is probably optimal. And then you have teams, I'm just going to wait. And then I have a team with Louis G in the main event where we just decided we drafted Fields and we'll stream starters until he plays. And that's been bumpy. Bridgewater to Heineke to, different options, just trying to, and then we started Fields when he played against the Browns, and that was a disaster.
Yeah.
So bottom line on these two guys, as I'm sort of laying out different possible ways it could have gone, is it worth it? Has it been worth it to draft those guys on your teams? And if it wasn't, or at this point it looks like it wasn't, that doesn't necessarily mean it was a mistake, because there's a long way to go and you can't know all the information. But that's something I've been thinking about a lot this week. Now they're both in, or at least Lance is in this week, and it's still not cut and dried for me what to do, because I've either got Heineke or I've got Brady, or I've just sort of got whatever other situation unfolded.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do, I've talked about this, my favorite thing to do this offseason was to draft Fields. And because I just saw tremendous upside, I was getting him in the 13th round or whatever. But I got to tell you, if he's going to run for 9 yards a game, I have zero interest in having him on my roster, because I'm only taking a rookie quarterback because of his rushing. I don't trust a rookie quarterback to lean on him with his passing to lead me to a fantasy championship.
Right.
So if they're not going to rush, I don't want it. And I don't trust Nagy to develop a passing offense around Justin Fields to help him throw for 300 yards. So if he's going to rush for 7, 8, 9 yards a game and they're not going to incorporate his legs, I'll cut him for Daniel Jones right now. So, and that's a thing that I've, again, in high stakes, you got to be quick to make these decisions. And there's some decisions this week where I've got Fields in a lot of leagues as my backup, and I'm playoff prepping, like we're talking about. Like, do I see? Can I close my eyes and envision Fields leading me to a championship or winning a week for me if he's rushing for 10 yards or 20 yards or whatever? So Trey Lance, on the other hand, you can see that they know what they're doing with him. They're putting him in the position to score fantasy points. Is he developed as a passer yet? No, of course not. But who cares for fantasy? I want him running. I want him. Oh, Trey Lance, he's just looking at his first read and he's taking off. Beautiful. That's exactly what I want. Jalen Hurts did that last year. Looked at his first read, took off, and ran for 80 yards a game. This year, he's developing as a passer. He's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. We were taking him all over the place too. So to me, Lance and Fields are going in 2 separate directions. And I think if Lance is available anywhere, obviously pick him up. But listen, these quarterbacks are gonna leave the waiver wire soon. If you see a Daniel Jones, or if you see like a Kirk Cousins somehow on your waiver wire, and you've got Fields as your backup, man, I wouldn't hesitate to do it, because you might get stuck holding the bag on Fields when you need a quarterback come playoff time.
You're talking specifically in the high stakes world where teams are going to start to identify a second quarterback option and just stay there.
That's exactly right. They're going to identify, like I bring up Daniel Jones. He's available in, 2% of leagues, and I saw him in one of my leagues. It's like, oh, I guess I have a decision to make, because Daniel Jones has already proven. Now he had 2 of his weapons were out. He threw for 400 yards. Tony looked very good. They got Galladay. They're getting those weapons back. Barkley's a stud. Like he's what you want Fields to be. So
don't forget the PFF rating is very high as well.
Is it? Well, I haven't gotten to that chapter in the book yet on him. So, but yeah, no, great, awesome, good stuff.
Are you wearing stirrups, by the way? We got to wrap this up. You got a game to watch.
I got a game. Go Red Sox. It's it's the first inning, man on first.
First.
Does Bogarts? Sorry, I'm going to give you a play-by-play. 2-run homer live on the deep end. Xander Bogaerts, let's go. Does anyone care? Can I go off that?
Sure.
Red Sox Yankees 1-game playoff.
Yeah.
No one's talking about it. What's going on?
I don't know. I thought the same thing today. It feels like it was important historically, but didn't move me.
Right.
I don't know why. It should have.
Am my head buried too far in waivers for 900 teams that I'm kind of missing out on
if you and I felt the same thing as far as that goes, we could have had the same reason for it. It's possible.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So free agent targets will get you to your game. I'll watch it too. It's just I know it's going to take 3 more hours, especially when those teams play.
Right. You got all night.
I'm sure he's taking his time rounding the bases. Damian Williams is the big name.
Yeah.
So if you went all in on Elijah Mitchell earlier in the season in terms of fab, I don't think if you made it through the last couple of weeks, you're probably still feeling good about it. And Mitchell, I think, seems primed to be the running back this week, the way it is shaping up. And you wouldn't rather have Damian Williams over whoever if Mitchell does, work out. But if you didn't spend that money, I think Williams is a good result. It's a good plan B, and one that you can't assume you'll get, as it plays out. If Montgomery doesn't get hurt, then I don't know, like Malcolm Brown or somebody like that. It's different. At least Williams will probably be Chicago's running back for maybe a month, and that's worth a lot.
Oh, that's worth a ton. Here we are in the we're entering the kind of the middle of the regular season here for these high stakes leagues, and running backs are going down like crazy. Montgomery, Mixon, just recently, if you can get a number 1 running back for a team for 4, they said he's out 3 to 5. You get him for 4 to 5 weeks. Knows the offense there, doing pretty well. Looked pretty good. I think he scored. Did he score on Sunday?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So they want to run the ball with Dalton and Fields. They want to hand the ball to the running back. Because they don't want these quarterbacks throwing a lot. They've looked good. Yeah, he's a guy that is available in a bunch of leagues I'm in. I'm going to be seriously considering him, especially in hero RB or zero RB builds, as an RB2. And I'm drawing a blank. Who's the running back behind him? Damian
Khalil
Williams.
Herbert.
I'm looking at Herbert. I'm looking at Tariq Cohen for cheap. Just grab these pieces. I have some Jeff Wilson pieces laying around. I've got some JaMychal Hasty pieces laying around. Because it's such a long, you just don't know when they're going to get there. So grab all these running backs that you can, and don't feel embarrassed to put a hefty waiver in on this guy, because if you get an RB2 for a month, that's pretty freaking sweet. And if you don't want to spend up for him, like I said, spend down for Herbert, spend down for Cohen. If he, I think he's supposed to come off the pup week 7. Is he even healthy week 7? Who knows? So definitely grab some pieces of that Chicago backfield, and I will be putting in some hefty bids for Damian Williams.
Williams gives you certain reasons for confidence that other guys in this situation wouldn't. One being his experience. He's not a rookie where you just have no idea what you're getting. He's somebody that has been in the league. I mean, he should have won the Super Bowl MVP award 2 years ago. Yeah. So he's somebody that you would expect coaches to think they can trust, which should mean volume for him. And so that's good. And he catches the ball. It's not the perfect offense, and if Field starts running, that'll be mitigated on Williams, but in this situation, I think he's about as well as you can hope for. So I want to be aggressive when it comes to him also. We talked about Trey Lance already. He's somebody, again, that might be an option, but, in terms of high stakes, probably is not. Tight ends, is it not sort of a typical mid-season kind of, I don't know, pool to wade into in terms of tight ends? I mean, you've got guys, Mo Alley Cox, 2 touchdowns, Donald Parham scored, Dawson Knox maybe. Some guys seem a little stickier than others, but if you didn't draft one of those top, however many you want to use for the point, 3 to 6 tight ends, then you're probably messing around here. And, like was to be expected, I think, Adam, there are options, but they're all very temporary and risky.
Yeah, Dawson Knox is interesting to me, and you were clever in bringing him up last week, and hopefully everybody jumped on him last week who needed a tight end because he's not available in a lot of leagues. I'm in a million leagues. I looked him up. He's available in one of my FFPC leagues. Here's the thing about Dawson Knox is the Bills are running the ball more, and they're running the ball more because their schedule is so easy. They are crushing teams. So they're able to throw the running back out there when they run the ball more, they put a tight end on the field more. Gabe Davis is not being used. You can cut Gabe Davis unless you want to hold on to him if you've got Diggs as a handcuff or something. But Dawson Knox is on the field a whole lot more, and they're throwing to him because he's on the field more because they're play action passing. Dawson Knox is a high end tight end too in these games where the Bills are crushing teams. Another thing, too, about the Zach Moss, Devin Singletary thing, a little off topic, is because the Bills are crushing teams, they don't need to run Josh Allen at the 5-yard line and get him smashed. He is their best running back inside the 5, but why, when you're up 30 against the Texans, would you do that? So Moss and Singletary are fine. Knox is fine in these games, maybe not against Kansas City this week, but they've got such an easy schedule this year. I think I saw somewhere that said as far as strength of schedule, they've got the second easiest schedule in the NFL. Rest away, they get Tennessee, probably going to crush them. Miami, Jacksonville, the Jets, Indy. I mean, those could be blowouts. So Knox is going to be a guy that I would certainly pick up. Uzoma for the Bengals, I think that's his one game a year. Like you said, Mo Alley Cox has that game every year. I need to see more out of them before I'm going to drop a player off my roster or put, fab budget on them. But Dawson Knox, I could certainly see sticking.
Yeah. I thought there were good signs last week, and I don't know, doing radio in Buffalo, it always was a little bit sort of confusing to me why people were so negative toward him. I mean, you always can find fans who will pump up any player for any reason, but like in terms of my group of friends, it seemed to be sort of this like assumption that he wasn't playable. And I don't mean in fantasy, I mean like in terms of the Bills.
Yeah.
And Zach Ertz rumors, but what did they do? Like I talked about last week with you, they cut Hollister after signing him. They let other guys, Croft and Lee Smith, go. And it's suddenly week 1 and it's Knox and Tommy Sweeney. Well, you laid it out. The blowouts, that second touchdown he scored last week, they could have run that play, or Allen could have set that play up for almost any player on the team. If he wanted to throw a touchdown pass to Jerry Hughes on that play, he would have. If he wanted to throw to Dawkins, who has 2 touchdown catches in his career, he would have. If he wanted to run it in, he would have. If he wanted Reggie Gilliam, he would have had Reggie Gilliam. Like that, at that point of game against that opponent, it was anything you wanted. And they went to Knox for the second time in that game, which was, if you look at it the way I did, that's kind of interesting too. Like he didn't need one.
Right. Yeah, no. And I think he's a young player. I think I was one of the guys kind of knocking Knox. And my nickname, to all my friends here is Rocks Knox because his hands. That's the thing. He's had some big time drops. He had a big time drop, I think, maybe in the playoffs. He had a big time drop. Another game against Kansas City, 3rd down drop. But he's also shown explosiveness. A play against the Bengals where he, as a rookie, truck sticked somebody and took it 60 yards or so.
Yeah, that was a great play.
Great play. He's an athlete. He was, underdrafted because I think he went to Ole Miss and DK Metcalf and AJ Brown were there, and he was, the forgotten man. So he's got the talent. If he can just hold on to the football, I think he's going to be a high end tight end too.
I think he's Allen's boy.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, that is true too.
they
Yep.
have their own touchdown celebration.
That's true.
Could have
Yep.
he could have thrown one to McDermott on that play if he wanted to, but they
Yep.
probably wouldn't allow that. One more guy on my mind tonight is J.D. McKissick.
Yeah.
Now, you have a KFFSC team, is it, with
Nope.
McKissick? You probably have. It's not.
I do.
Sorry.
But I think the team you're referencing is the FFPC 3K varsity.
Okay. And that's a team where you got McKissick in like round 14. I remember in the summer never wanting him. And you know what? It was my mistake. Next year I'll be better at this. What happened was there are certain like thoughts you have in the moment on guys, and I just defaulted to the Antonio Gibson bell cow fantasy, which, stems from what? It stems from buying into him before he ever played and then feeling like I was right when he has a very good rookie year, and then getting into year 2 and knowing that he impressed, and then hearing about Christian McCaffrey comparisons and like, well, they won't need JD McKissick. It's so important to take any situation and really stare at it and do your most to block out any of those biases, because McKissick is somebody I easily could have picked over guys like Rashad Penny and I don't know, Moss or Singletary even. That's not the best example. We're just on the Bills, but round 15 of these drafts, and I just wrote him off. And I do too much of that. And I realized that it can be exhausting when you're breaking down you're drafting through, you got a 30-second clock or a 60-second clock, and you're sort of trying to make sure your build is right and everything like that. And then you have certain guys that you're just sort of drawn to and other guys that you just know to stay away from. And McKissick, even though he was useful last year, was somebody that I never picked. And so here we are again, 4 weeks in, and he's scoring and he's on the field, 2 minutes, passing game, everything. Like, he's about as useful as he was last year, as far as I know. And so I bet to be in first place in the 3K, you've got other guys meaning more, but McKissick is somebody that has mattered to you probably.
Yeah, and he means a lot, man. When you go 0 RB, those McKissick type picks are so important. And I had James White in that league too, and that hurt. Like, I would, losing James White hurt more than losing like my 5th receiver on that team, who's like Cortland Sutton. Like, I'd rather lose Cortland Sutton on that team because I have so many great receivers. Who cares? But James White was going to be my platoon guy in there. But J.D. McKissick can be that guy, and he is that guy. And I think too, like what you're saying, it's exhausting in the off season. We have thoughts like each day you get different news. There's preseason games. We do so many drafts that each kind of have a life of their own. And the J.D. McKissick thing is, I was a huge Gibson guy for a spell there in the off season. When the schedule came out, strength of schedule, he had a real nice playoff schedule. Still does.
Yeah, Dallas twice,
Philly twice. Shootout type games. And then the preseason came. Okay, what's one of the things we're going to look at the preseason? Is Gibson going to get that passing role? And he didn't. He didn't get it in the preseason. And once I saw that, maybe the old me would have been stubborn and been like, it's just preseason. They don't want to overwork him. But I just had that feeling like if where there's smoke, there's fire. The coaching staff did it last year. Why would they change it up this year? We want Gibson to be something that he just isn't with this coaching staff. He can be, but he's not. And so McKissick became a target of mine in the 13th, 14th, 15th round as in a specific build. And I think he's going to get that 2-minute offense. He's going to get that, if they're losing, he's going to get a lot of those catches. And Dwayne McFarland's better at this. He knows the long down and distance and the 4-minute work and all that stuff. And definitely go listen to their podcast too to get that information. But PFF, yep, there you go. Or even what's the other one that those guys do? I think they're Hustle. FF Hustle. I was drawing a blank. Yeah.
I'm a big Ian Hartitz fan. I could listen to him all the time. And he's just super smart and funny. Smart and funny. That's the ticket.
Well, you can listen to him all the time. I think they do about 12 podcasts a week, those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, McKissick's gonna be there all season. He's a thorn in the side of Gibson owners, but the zero RB guys love him because he's a guy you can plug in as your RB2. And he's getting, Mike, I've seen him get some goal line work too.
Yeah.
He scored a goal line touchdown. He got a carry, maybe even against the Bills, maybe this last week inside the 5-yard line. Like if they're in that offense and they're going, he's not coming off the field, So
week one, I think he scored like that for Washington against the Chargers, maybe, or week 2.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Just, it's so much fun. And you said a lot there. The season is so short, it flies by, and there can be all these false signals, and then by the time you think you have it sorted out, it's over. So It seems like what's paramount is to protect yourself against those things and build your team. I don't care if this player is above this player. It's just I got to make sure I have this position and then these outcomes. And I don't know. It's really smart stuff, I think. So,
and too, real quick, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's a small sample size. It's a small sample size sport we're playing here."
Right.
Like we've only got, and I reference the FFPC. We've only got, it used to be 11 or 12 weeks in the regular season to get this right, to figure this out. Like, so, again, we've got trends, and that's why a lot of these, predictive analytics are great, because what does this mean? Mo Cox, we've seen this before. He's not going to do it again. Uzoma, we've seen this before. Once T. Higgins comes back, Uzoma, like, once you play and you get that experience and you trust the right people, you listen to the right stuff, you kind of know what to filter out. But other stuff, it's hard. But it's such a small sample size sport, you gotta think fast, gotta think on your feet, and you gotta make the right decisions.
When are we going to talk about week 9?
What's week 9?
Week 9 is I'm in Hawaii.
Ooh.
And that means the 1:00 game start at 7 in the morning. Have we talked about this?
No.
Well, it doesn't have to be tonight. You got a baseball game to watch, but at some point we might need a special episode. We'll do this show I'll be in Hawaii. We'll do the show from there. I'll hopefully be in the ocean drinking something with an umbrella in it.
What time will it be there at 8 p.m.? It'll be 10 a.m. or something?
It's actually 6 hours until what is my 50th birthday on the 7th, the Sunday of week 9. And then that's also the fall back with the clocks, and Hawaii doesn't. So it'll be so confusing. It'll be 5 hours then, but with, waivers, and I'll be in the air the whole day on Wednesday trying to figure out waivers from an airplane over, I don't know, Arizona or the ocean.
Wait, so it'll be your birthday twice? It's going to be your birthday and then time's going to go back. It's going to be your birthday again? Come on.
I don't know if I want that. Let me decide if I want that, then I'll answer. Yeah, so week 9 special coverage. That's Perfect. The deep end right there. That's the deep
right.
end
You
from
will
the ocean with a volcano in the background.
You'll be in the Pacific.
All right. Keep it up, everybody. Tweet at us. There's Adams. I'm at Shope Talk, SCHOPPTALK. If you need me, at the deep end at Draftsharks. Deep end FF1, by the way. And, questions, comments. Adam is killing it right now in the high stakes world. I'm learning and I'm loving it, and I'll maybe do okay. But some bad beats. That one last week was tough.
0-4. Oh my gosh. 0-4, and you're in the play. I want you to go 0-12.
That's our best team. There's no bad beat there. We've not even lost close ones with that team. But that's third in points now after a little bit of a slow week. But that's a good team, I think.
That's
0-4. Yeah. So, mixed results. Well, one of these years we'll talk about my teams, but I'm still just sort of hanging on to your coattails here. Your stirrups, your Red Sox stirrups.
My Red Sox stirrups.
Thanks, everybody. Let us know what you think and how you're doing out there in the deep end. Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst. Enjoy your night.